In life, there are countless paths we can choose to follow, but some paths lead us into dangerous territory. As we grow older, we often become more compassionate, more willing to help others. It's a beautiful quality, but it can also leave us vulnerable. That's why it's crucial to be aware of the people we choose to help and the ways we offer that help. Not every person who asks for your assistance has good intentions. Billy Graham once warned, "Elderly beware." Don't help these people. His words aren't just a cautionary tale. They are a reminder to each of us that, as we age, we must exercise wisdom and discernment in every aspect of our lives. We can still help, still make a difference. But we must be careful with whom we trust and where we invest our energy. In a world where deception and manipulation are often hidden behind a veil of charm, it's easy to fall prey to those who seek to exploit our kindness and generosity. Elderly people in particular are targeted because of their experience, their wealth of life knowledge, and often their solitude. They may feel compelled to help, to offer kindness where it is needed, but some are simply taking advantage. We live in a time where integrity is sometimes overshadowed by ambition. Some people have no regard for the truth and will manipulate emotions to achieve their selfish desires. If you are kind enough to offer your assistance, that very kindness can be twisted into something else, something that can harm you or others around you. This is why it's essential to protect not just your financial assets, but your emotional well-being too. No matter how much love and care you have to give, you must recognize that not everyone will appreciate it or return it in the right way. Sometimes, the very people you extend your kindness to may turn around and use that trust against you. It's a harsh reality, but it's one we must face. It's not about being cynical, it's about being wise. We must also acknowledge the role that society plays in how we help others. The world can sometimes prioritize material gain over human connection, which leads to the rise of manipulative individuals. It's not just about money either. Manipulation can happen in many forms, through promises of love, through fake relationships, through promises of future success. People who prey on the elderly often use these tactics to gain trust and create dependence. They create a false sense of security, only to later exploit that trust for their own benefit. So, how can we prevent falling into this trap? It starts with awareness. Pay attention to the red flags. Is the person constantly demanding more of your time, your energy, or your resources? Are they offering something in return that feels too good to be true? Are they pressuring you to act quickly without thinking it through? These are the signs that should cause you to step back and reflect. Your kindness is precious, and it should never be exploited for someone else's gain. Another key factor in protecting yourself is setting boundaries. Setting clear boundaries is one of the most powerful tools we have to protect ourselves from being taken advantage of. When you say no, say it with confidence, without feeling guilty. Understand that you are not obligated to say yes to everything or everyone. Your time, your resources, and your energy are valuable, and it is perfectly acceptable to say no when something doesn't feel right. In addition to protecting yourself from those who might misuse your kindness, we must also consider the importance of surrounding ourselves with people who genuinely care about us. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that we need to help everyone. However, we must prioritize our own mental, physical, and emotional health. Seek out relationships with those who respect your boundaries and care for your well-being. These are the relationships that will nourish you and help you grow, not drain you or take advantage of your kindness. You also need to recognize that there are times when helping someone doesn't necessarily mean offering material resources or financial support. Sometimes the best way to help is by offering your wisdom, your experience, or even just a listening ear. You don't have to give money or possessions to make a difference in someone's life. Often a simple conversation or a word of encouragement can have a profound impact, and in those moments, you'll know that you are making a genuine difference without being manipulated. It's also important to remember that even in the face of exploitation, we should not become hardened or lose our capacity for kindness. While we must remain vigilant, we should not let fear of being taken advantage of stop us from being compassionate. The key is balance, being discerning, setting boundaries, and not letting ourselves become cynical, but also being wise enough to know when someone is taking advantage of us. The wisdom that comes with age is invaluable, and it's a gift that allows us to see the world through a different lens. We understand the value of time, the fleeting nature of life, and the importance of relationships built on trust and love. It's this wisdom that can help us navigate the world with a clearer sense of who we should help, when we should help, and how we should help. Remember that you are worthy of respect and kindness. Your love, your time, and your generosity are not endless resources to be depleted by those who would use you. You are not obligated to give beyond what feels right for you, and you should never feel guilty for protecting yourself from those who seek to exploit your goodwill. In fact, it is a responsibility to protect your own peace and integrity. So elderly, beware. Don't let your kindness be mistaken for weakness. Be mindful of who you help and why. Surround yourself with people who honor and respect you, and never forget that your generosity is not something to be exploited. You can still make a difference in this world, but do so in a way that protects your heart and your well-being. One of the most important lessons we can learn as we age is to carefully discern who and what we allow into our lives. The key to this lesson lies in understanding that, with time and experience, our ability to offer wisdom, compassion, and support becomes increasingly valuable. However, this same generosity can be exploited by those who may not have our best interests at heart. In the words of Billy Graham, elderly, beware. Don't help these people. There is an urgent call to recognize the dangers that exist when we extend our kindness to the wrong individuals. The act of helping others is something that often comes naturally to people, especially as they grow older. Having lived through different stages of life, older individuals possess a wealth of experience, knowledge, and emotional depth. This makes them not only compassionate, but often more inclined to extend a helping hand. However, this willingness to help can sometimes be taken advantage of, especially when others seek to exploit this generosity for personal gain. When we reach a certain stage in life, many of us may be living in a more isolated or vulnerable state. Children and grandchildren may have their own lives, leaving us to spend more time alone. While this solitude might be peaceful, it also leaves us open to people who take advantage of our desire for connection. They may approach with false friendliness or promises of assistance, but behind their words lies manipulation. Some people prey on those who have a deep reservoir of compassion, knowing that older individuals are often more willing to offer help, even when it is not in their best interest. One of the most difficult aspects of aging is the realization that not all relationships are genuine. There will be people who come into our lives not to offer their help or care, but to take advantage of what they can get. Whether it's financial, emotional, or physical support, some individuals will seek to use our generosity as a tool for their own purposes. These are the very people Billy Graham warned us about. His caution was not intended to make us fearful or distrustful, but to encourage us to be discerning and wise in how we choose to offer help. The world today is far more complicated than it was in previous generations. People are increasingly adept at masking their true intentions behind smiles, promises, and emotional appeals. They can be charming, persuasive, and skilled at creating an illusion of need. This is where the wisdom that comes with age is invaluable. When we have lived through different challenges, we begin to recognize the signs of manipulation. We can spot the subtle cues that reveal someone's true character, even if they are disguised behind a veil of kindness or vulnerability. The trick, however, is not to allow our fear of being exploited to stop us from helping altogether. Being wary is important, but it should not make us close off to genuine needs. There will always be people who are truly in need of support, those who are not asking for anything in return, but simply need a hand to lift them up during a tough time. It is essential to maintain the ability to discern these situations and respond accordingly. Setting clear boundaries is one of the most effective ways to protect ourselves from those who would take advantage of our kindness. Knowing where to draw the line is critical. Boundaries are not just about protecting your material resources. They are also about safeguarding your emotional and mental well-being. Many individuals may approach with requests for money, time, or energy, but it's important to assess whether these requests are genuine. There's a difference between offering help to someone who truly needs it and being manipulated by someone who only seeks to take. Furthermore, boundaries can be physical. emotional, or mental, sometimes we may need to distance ourselves from certain individuals, even if they are family or close friends. The fact is, not everyone who claims to care for us has our best interests at heart. It's okay to step away from relationships that drain you or put you in a position of vulnerability. It's okay to say no when something doesn't feel right or when you know that helping will only lead to being exploited. Another way to protect yourself is by seeking advice from trusted individuals. As we grow older, our social circles may shrink, but it's important to still have people we can turn to for guidance. Trusted friends, family members, or professionals can help us gain perspective on situations where we might feel unsure. They can offer a fresh set of eyes and help us see things from a different angle, providing the clarity we need to make informed decisions. The rise of scams, frauds, and dishonest schemes has made it all the more critical to stay vigilant. Many older individuals fall victim to these scams because they may feel isolated or lonely, leading them to be more trusting. These scammers are often skilled at playing on emotions, offering a false sense of security or creating a false narrative that tugs at the heartstrings. They may promise riches, friendships, or even love, all while taking advantage of someone's vulnerability. By staying informed and being aware of these tactics, we can protect ourselves from becoming victims of exploitation. It's also important to remember that the act of helping doesn't always mean providing money or material resources. Offering wisdom, sharing life lessons, or providing a listening ear can be just as valuable. Sometimes people only need guidance or a sense of belonging. Offering your time to listen or share a story can create meaningful connections that are both fulfilling and enriching without the risks of exploitation. Yet, as we protect ourselves from manipulation, we must also be careful not to become cynical or distrustful of everyone. While there are certainly individuals who will try to take advantage of us, there are many others who are sincere and genuine in their need for help. We cannot let the actions of a few bad individuals prevent us from extending kindness to those who truly need it. Ultimately, the key lies in finding balance. It's important to be discerning and protective of your resources, whether that be your time, your money, or your emotional energy. But it's equally important to keep your heart open to genuine opportunities to help others. As we grow older, we become wiser, and with that wisdom comes the responsibility to use it for both our own protection and the greater good of those around us. Billy Graham's warning serves as a reminder to stay vigilant and to understand that not everyone who asks for help is worthy of receiving it, but it also serves as a call to action, to use our wisdom, our experience, and our compassion to make a difference, while also protecting ourselves from those who would exploit us. It's a delicate balance, but one that can be achieved through careful discernment and an unwavering commitment to self-care and integrity. In a world where kindness is often seen as a strength, it's important to remember that not everyone who approaches us with a need has pure intentions. The reality is that there are those who actively seek to exploit the compassion of others, particularly the elderly, who may be more vulnerable due to isolation, diminished physical strength, or a lifetime of generosity. The lesson here is not to stop helping others, but rather to help with wisdom and discernment. We must understand that kindness should not be given blindly, but in ways that protect both ourselves and the integrity of our actions. The elderly, especially those who have lived through different stages of life, have much to offer. From a lifetime of experiences comes a deep well of knowledge, compassion, and a sense of duty to make the world a better place. This makes many older individuals more inclined to help others, often without considering the potential consequences of their actions. While this instinct to help is admirable, it can also leave them vulnerable to people who have no intention of reciprocating or showing genuine gratitude. One of the most difficult challenges as we age is the shift in social dynamics. Friends and family might be distant, not out of lack of love, but because life's demands lead them in different directions. This increasing isolation can make older individuals more susceptible to manipulative behaviors. Those who seek to take advantage of an older person's kindness know this and often use it to their benefit. They will appeal to emotions, exploiting the elderly's desire for connection and sense of duty to others, all while hiding their true motives behind a facade of charm and gratitude. problem is not that helping others is inherently wrong. On the contrary, it is one of the most important qualities a person can possess. The issue arises when people seek to manipulate that kindness for personal gain. This could be in the form of financial exploitation, where someone promises something in return, but then either never delivers or uses the money for their own benefit. It could also take more subtle forms, such as using someone's time and emotional energy without offering anything in return. This is where discernment becomes key. Discernment is the ability to judge well, to separate genuine need from false pretenses. It requires awareness, wisdom, and sometimes a bit of skepticism. This doesn't mean that we should become distrustful of everyone or stop helping those in need. Instead, we should develop the ability to recognize when someone is using manipulation to gain something they are not entitled to. Often, this manifests through repeated demands for help that never seem to end, or constantly changing narratives that keep the elderly person on edge, unsure of what the truth is. When someone only offers promises and never concrete actions, or when their words don't align with their actions, it's essential to question their motives. The key to protecting oneself is not to reject the world's need, but to set boundaries. A boundary is a clear line that defines what is acceptable and what is not. By setting these limits, an elderly person can prevent others from overstepping their boundaries, ensuring that their help is given only when it is appropriate and necessary. Boundaries are an essential form of self-respect, helping to maintain one's dignity and protect against exploitation. Without boundaries, kindness becomes a tool for others to use and abuse. Boundaries can be set in a variety of ways. For example, when someone comes to you with a request, it is essential to assess the situation fully. Is this a one-time need, or does the person seem to be asking for help repeatedly without making any effort to help themselves? Do they show genuine gratitude, or do they expect help without acknowledgement? These are important signs that can help identify manipulation. Another boundary is the ability to say no. Sometimes helping others is not the best thing you can do, especially if it's detrimental to your own well-being. It can be difficult to say no, particularly if the person requesting help is a family member or a friend. But the reality is that it's better to say no than to provide help that will only perpetuate dependency or create an unhealthy dynamic. A clear, firm no should be respected, and anyone who truly cares about you will understand your decision. In addition, it's important to recognize the signs of someone who may be intentionally taking advantage of your generosity. Manipulative individuals often use guilt as a tool. They may try to make you feel like you're doing something wrong by not helping, or imply that you're selfish for not offering support. These tactics can wear down the resolve of even the most well-intentioned people, which is why it's crucial to stand firm in your decisions and not be swayed by guilt. Seeking the advice of trusted family, friends, or professionals can also help to shed light on a situation. When someone you know is in need of help, but you're unsure whether their motives are pure, seeking outside perspectives can provide clarity. These people can offer objective insights, helping you understand whether or not the person is truly in need or if they are manipulating you. Another important aspect of this conversation is the emotional toll that manipulation can take. Often, older individuals are not just offering money or resources, but are also offering their emotional support. This can be even more draining than any financial contribution. Those who manipulate emotions are often extremely skilled in creating a false sense of intimacy, making the elderly feel important, loved, and needed. They might shower the individual with attention at first, only to withdraw it once they've gained what they want. This can leave the elderly person feeling rejected, or even guilty for their perceived inability to meet the demands of others. One way to counter this emotional manipulation is by remembering that love and care are not transactional. Genuine relationships are based on mutual respect and understanding, not on one person constantly giving while the other takes. It's important to protect your heart from people who do not treat you with the same respect you offer them. A final point to consider is the necessity of protecting one's mental health as we age. The world can sometimes seem overwhelming, and the stress of dealing with manipulative individuals can be exhausting. Finding ways to cope with this stress, whether through hobbies, meditation, time with trusted friends, or professional therapy, can help maintain emotional balance and prevent burnout. In conclusion, the message is not to stop helping others, but to do so wisely and with discernment. As we age, we accumulate wisdom, and with that wisdom comes the responsibility to use it to protect ourselves and those we care about. There is a balance between giving freely and protecting oneself from exploitation. By recognizing the signs of manipulation, setting firm boundaries, and relying on the support of trusted people, we can continue to offer help to others without allowing ourselves to become victims of deception. As we age, it becomes increasingly important to recognize the difference between genuine help and manipulation. The desire to assist others is a natural part of human nature, especially for those who have lived through various life experiences and gained wisdom along the way. However, as Billy Graham wisely cautioned, it's crucial for the elderly to be aware of whom they extend their kindness to. Not everyone who seeks help is doing so for honest reasons, and some individuals may be looking to exploit the kindness and generosity of others. This is a difficult but necessary reality to understand, and it begins with recognizing that not all requests for help are born from necessity. Some come from a place of selfishness, manipulation, or deceit. Older individuals, often with their vast life experience, are deeply compassionate and have a strong desire to help others. However, these qualities can unfortunately make them prime targets for exploitation. There is a tendency to want to give, whether it's giving time, money, or emotional support, especially when one is in a vulnerable position themselves. Yet, while the act of helping others is commendable, it's essential to acknowledge that there are people who take advantage of this willingness. They will appeal to the emotions of others, using stories of hardship, loneliness, or urgency to manipulate their targets into offering help, whether it's financial, emotional, or physical assistance. Those who seek to exploit another's good nature often know exactly how to manipulate the situation to their advantage. For those who are elderly and might be more vulnerable due to circumstances such as isolation, financial security, or simply an open-hearted nature, it's critical to recognize the signs of manipulation. Some may seek to exploit loneliness, a common issue for older individuals. They may appear as caring, promising to be good companions or friends, only to use the bond of companionship to extract money or gifts. This emotional manipulation can be extremely difficult to detect because it often comes in the guise of affection or concern. For example, someone might claim they need help with an urgent financial problem or an immediate emotional crisis, pressuring the elderly person into acting before they have time to consider the long-term implications. One key method of protecting oneself from manipulation is the ability to set firm boundaries. Boundaries are essential for maintaining healthy relationships and for protecting both emotional and financial resources. A boundary does not mean being closed off or refusing to help those in genuine need. Rather, it is the ability to recognize when help is truly needed and when someone is taking advantage of the situation. In relationships where there is an imbalance of power, such as when one person is constantly giving and the other is constantly taking, boundaries become an essential tool. Without these limits, the relationship becomes toxic, leaving one person drained while the other takes without ever giving back. The act of setting boundaries requires self-awareness and self-respect. Saying no when necessary is not an easy task, particularly when the person requesting help is a family member or close friend. It can feel like rejection or neglect, but it is, in fact, a way of maintaining balance in the relationship. Establishing boundaries can help prevent someone from continuously exploiting your kindness, and it can also provide the space needed to discern whether the request for help is genuine. It is important to remember that offering support does not mean compromising your own well-being. There is a difference between offering help from a place of care and being manipulated into offering help because of emotional coercion. Another essential aspect of setting boundaries is knowing that it is okay to ask for help or advice when a situation feels ambiguous or uncomfortable. If someone is asking for assistance but you are unsure about their motives, don't hesitate to reach out to trusted friends or family for guidance. It is often difficult to see manipulation when you are directly involved in the situation, but a fresh perspective can help you discern the truth. Trusted individuals who understand your values and respect your boundaries can offer clarity and advice on how to handle difficult situations. These conversations can provide insight into whether the person requesting help has ulterior motives or if their request is genuinely coming from a place of need. In some cases, when the manipulation is more overt or aggressive, it may be necessary to distance oneself from the individual or end the relationship altogether. While this may seem harsh, it is important to prioritize one's own mental, emotional, and financial health. If someone is causing harm, draining your resources, or consistently taking without giving back, it's important to recognize that ending the relationship is not a failure, but rather an act of self-preservation. In some situations, you may need to report abusive or manipulative behavior to relevant authorities or seek legal protection if the situation becomes extreme. While these steps can be difficult, they are often necessary to protect yourself from ongoing exploitation. In addition to setting boundaries, a major aspect of protecting oneself from exploitation is being aware of common manipulative tactics. Manipulative individuals often use guilt, urgency, and emotional appeals to push others into making quick decisions. They may pressure you to act without giving you the time or space to think things through, creating a sense of panic or distress. Recognizing these tactics is an important step in regaining control of the situation. By understanding how manipulators operate, you can better protect yourself from being coerced into doing something that you would later regret. One tactic that manipulators often use is creating a false sense of urgency. They might claim that there is a limited time to act or that failing to help will lead to disastrous consequences. This tactic is meant to overwhelm you and push you into a decision without fully thinking it through. A person who genuinely needs assistance will understand that you need time to consider how best to help and won't pressure you into making a hasty decision. If someone is trying to rush you into action, it is often a red flag that their intentions are not pure. Another common tactic is the use of guilt. Manipulators are skilled at making others feel responsible for their problems or creating the illusion that by not helping, the elderly person is being selfish or uncaring. This guilt can be extremely difficult to resist, especially for those who have spent a lifetime helping others. However, it is essential to remember that kindness is not about sacrificing your own needs or well-being for the sake of someone else. Healthy relationships are reciprocal, and it's okay to say no, especially when the request is unreasonable or manipulative. Finally, the importance of maintaining self-care cannot be overstated. This is not just about physical health, but also emotional and mental health. When an individual is constantly giving without receiving support in return, it can lead to burnout, stress, and resentment. This is why it's crucial to find time for oneself, to nourish relationships that are mutually supportive, and to avoid people who only seek to take. By investing in your own well-being, you are better able to care for others in a way that is healthy and sustainable. In conclusion, while the desire to help others is a noble trait, it is important to approach it with discernment. The elderly are often the targets of manipulation because of their open-hearted nature and willingness to assist those in need. However, by setting firm boundaries, recognizing manipulative tactics, seeking advice from trusted individuals, and prioritizing self-care, older individuals can protect themselves from being exploited. True kindness is not about being used by others, but about offering help where it is genuinely needed and where it does not come at the expense of your own well-being. As we navigate the later stages of life, it's vital to acknowledge that helping others, while a noble and often deeply fulfilling act, should be approached with caution and awareness. One of the greatest gifts that come with age is wisdom, the ability to see the world through a lens shaped by decades of experiences, challenges, and victories. However, this wisdom can sometimes be taken for granted, especially when we are approached by others who may not have our best interests at heart. Billy Graham's words, "Elderly beware, don't help these people," serve as a poignant reminder that while helping others is important, not everyone who asks for assistance is worthy of receiving it. Older individuals are often targets for manipulation because of their kindness, their wealth of life experience, and sometimes their loneliness. Many elderly individuals may have children or family members who are distant or preoccupied with their own lives, leaving them to face challenges on their own. In this context, the desire to help others can become a natural response to the void of companionship or the need to feel valued and needed. This, however, is where the danger lies. People who prey on vulnerability often exploit this very kindness, using guilt, charm, or deceit to gain what they want, leaving the elderly person emotionally, financially, and even physically drained. The first step in protecting oneself from such exploitation is to recognize the subtle signs of manipulation. Manipulators often use emotional appeals to make others feel responsible for their problems. They may create a narrative that puts the elderly person in a position where they feel like they must act out of a sense of moral duty or familial obligation. For instance, a person might claim they are in a financial crisis or have suffered a personal loss and need immediate assistance. While this may be genuine in some cases, others may fabricate or exaggerate these circumstances to gain access to resources or emotional support. The key here is to take a step back, assess the situation, and ask whether the person has shown any effort to solve their own problems, or if this is a recurring pattern of behavior.